The Insta360 X4 Air. I've had this about a week now, and I thought it was about time I shared my feelings on it. This video is aimed probably at people like me who'd not really seen the point of 360 cameras before. If you've already got a 360 camera, you'll be familiar with it, I'm sure. And I could probably summarise it by saying it's basically a smaller version of the Insta360 X5, and it's £160 cheaper than the X5. It's 70% of the cost. It's a smaller body, it's lighter, it's 165 grams compared to 200 grams on the X5. The battery is a little bit smaller, it's a 2010 milliamp hours versus a 2400 milliamp hours. In real world, it states that you get 88 minutes of runtime. I'll show you my test in a little bit of time, but it's also got a smaller sensor, and that does make a difference. It makes it, it does give it a little bit of extra noise in dark conditions. And the quality of the footage itself, you can see that both have got 8K, they've got 4K, and they've got 1080, and it's only in the lower resolutions where you get the option of higher frames per second of the X5. I think it's very comparable. I'd say you're getting 95% of the camera for 70% of the price. For everyone else though, I want to go through my learning process with this and just explain where I am with it and what I think of it, because I have been genuinely surprised by this camera. I'm not a stranger to action cameras. There's my DJI Osmo Nano, which I've done a review previously up in the corner there. And wonderful little camera, lots of potential, but totally flawed by overheating problems and limited battery, limited memory storage space, and it could have been so good, but it just misses the mark, unfortunately. However, this, I wasn't expecting anything of it, and it is totally delivered. It's changed my mind on what a 360 camera is and can do for me. I think a lot of my resistance to 360 cameras came with not fully understanding what they are and what they can do, because they're not like a traditional action camera. And I mean, that's the DJI Osmo Nano, and it's tiny, and you can imagine that being incredibly versatile when you're doing action sports, but that's quite a bulky thing. I mean, I've got a helmet chin mount for this thing, and it sits on front of my crash helmet, but it's a bit different story with this thing, because you put that on the crash helmet and you can't see a thing beyond it. So you've got to be thoughtful about your application. But you see on social media all the time, adrenaline junkies absolutely love this. Skiers, racing drivers, and I am one of those. I am a racing driver, and I can see lots of potential with this. You've just got to be mindful and creative with how you go about mounting them and putting them on selfie sticks, or using suckers and things to put them on top of cars or your crash helmets. There's a lot of potential here. I mean, I've basically just been having fun with it, experimenting, setting up in my sim bunker and playing a few old arcade games. But I'm really looking forward to seeing what I can do with this thing. So what are you getting for your money? Well, there are various different kits available where you'll get things like selfie sticks and additional batteries, but this is the standard kit for £359. You get the camera itself, you get some stickers and the charging cable. You also get this quite nifty little protective case that's quite funky, and well, that's basically it really. But it does feel incredibly well made. It's premium. You open up the slot there to reveal your USB-C charging port. Now, I would have preferred to have also seen in there the slot for the memory card, because the memory card slot is inside here. There it is, and it's an incredibly awkward slot to get hold of to swap your memory cards around. And on that subject, I shall show you how to release the memory card. You take the battery out, and it's tucked away in there. You can just see the red and the gold colour in there. It's easy enough to pop it out with your fingernail, but it's getting it out over the lip of the camera. You've got to get your fingernail in it. Now, that is a SanDisk Extreme memory card. It's a U3 class of card. Initially, I put a SanDisk Ultra card in there, which is this silver and red coloured card, and it just didn't want to know. I tried to do a 6K recording with the camera, and after about 10 seconds, it came up with the computer says no, and said it was insufficient and shut off the recording. But get yourself a good sized memory card. That is a 128 gigabytes, and that will give you a good hour and a half of recording at 8K. So 128 gigs is what you really want to do, and then the bigger the memory card, the fewer times you have to keep on swapping it out, because it is such an awkward little swine. There we go, it's in there. Then your battery goes in there. It's always worthwhile having an extra battery as well. This is the standard kit, it just comes with one battery. I would recommend getting at least another one to have in your kit bag. I would also perhaps recommend a lens protector. Those lenses, front and back, they just project. They're very susceptible to damage, especially if you're using it as an action camera. So do invest in a decent couple of lens protectors. This thing boots up really quite quickly. When you want to just get on with recording, you can either press the power on button, as I'm showing on the screen here, and then press the button, the function button down at the bottom. It only takes a couple of seconds from pressing that button to get into recording mode. However, if you just press and hold that recording button, this camera is currently off, and there you go, it's already recording. So within a second and a half, it's going from standstill to recording. That's quite impressive. I'm going to show you how you navigate around the phone's menu systems. You swipe from the corners inwards. So from the top, you swipe down to bring up the settings. Plenty of settings to choose from, including being able to customize what each of the buttons on the side and the front of the camera do. There is also a few things such as gesture control. This is quite useful so that you can stand. It does recommend over 1 meter away that you can do either the peace sign to take a photograph, or you just hold up your palm to start recording. It works okay. You need to be a certain distance away. It's a bit hit and miss. I don't use it myself. There's also voice control. Those are the voice functions that you can use to start the camera or take a photograph. I've not used that one. These are the presets. This is quite useful for each individual ones, and you can set up a new one if you want. You can set a predefined setting of the frames per second and the resolution. So if you're in the car or skiing or whatever, you can quickly bring up the settings that you prefer for each of those. In the Bluetooth section, you can pair up things like microphones. There's a wide selection of microphones that are compatible with this camera. And if you swipe in from the left from the main screen, this brings up your album. All the videos and photographs that you've taken will be contained here. Swipe through them very easily, play through them. It works quite nicely. Swiping in from the right hand side on the main menu will bring up things like exposure control and the white balance control. It's also where you're going to find things like the jitter blur reduction, which is basically image stabilization. There's also HDR, but that does have a negative effect in dark lighting conditions. At the bottom of the menu is where you'll find your shooting options, whether you want to be shooting video, photographs, burst, the star lap, the road mode. You can actually use it as a dash cam, and it works quite nicely. There's time lapse on there and the Insta frame, which I'll show you in a moment. There's also the single lens footage. That was previously 360. This is specific to single lens. Things like me mode, where you put the camera onto a selfie stick and through the process of witchcraft it will make it invisible. But when you've chosen your selected output, then go down to that little bar at the bottom, and this is where you choose your resolution. 8K, 6K, 4K, 1080, and then choose the frame rates. The frame rates will change depending on which resolution that you go for. If you go for 4K, it'll go up to a maximum of 50 frames per second, although the website does actually say 60 frames per second, but the camera shows 50. If you choose 8K, it tops out at 30 frames per second. This is where you choose your HDR function. Like I said earlier, it will impact the quality if it's in a dark shooting environment. There's also the adaptive tone on there as well. Now, I also want to show you this one. If we go back to the shooting format, we can choose this Insta frame. This is where it does a dual record. It records in 6K at 30 frames per second, your 360 degree view, but it also records a single lens shot, and you can choose which lens and in which direction it's filming. It does top out at 1080, only HD rather than 4K, but you can choose either the 16:9 widescreen or 9:16 format, and then choose which direction it's going to. This is in selfie mode, and the selfie mode camera is really good. It quickly tracks you around as you move about, and you can also choose how close the image is cropped to you. But there's also, you can choose the rear camera, the front camera to point downwards, upwards, or choose specifically where you want the camera to point. It's really quite adaptive, this is. It's very impressive what you want to do. Basically, it's giving you the best of both worlds, 360 and single lens, without having to do any post-edit. After a week of using it though, what I will say is I just leave it in 8K mode. That way you're recording absolutely everything in the best possible clarity in all directions. Then you just piece everything together in your editing process to get the footage just how you want it to be, either on the phone, on the tablet, or on PC or Mac, and I'll show you that in a little bit. But I've spent this week just experimenting. I started off just wandering around the garden, or even going around the supermarket just holding onto the camera just to get the feel of the camera and what it actually does. And then after I'd had a bit of a play and got familiar with it, my wife, myself and the dog, we went up to Chatsworth, which is just up the road from where I live, and we had a bit of a wander around the Beeley Moor and dropped down into Chatsworth itself. And it came up with some absolutely wonderful footage. It took a little while to piece it all together, and later that evening probably took me about an hour's worth of editing just to piece it all together into a coherent video, but the results were incredibly impressive. However, you're going to notice there that in my hand I'm holding the DJI Osmo Nano. I wanted to show you exactly what the difference was between a 360 camera and a standard action camera. So I'm going to show you now all the footage I filmed on Sunday walking around Chatsworth side by side. The first thing that's going to grab you is obviously the colour representation. The DJI Osmo, the colours are so much richer, and the definition and the fidelity, it seems much better on the DJI. I will caveat that by saying that the settings of the Insta is basically box fresh. I've not done any colour grading, I've not done anything in post edit other than point the focus where I want the camera to look. And that's probably worth noting. With a standard action camera, it literally is point and shoot. You point the camera where you want to record. But with a 360 camera, it's all really done in the edit. But I think this gives you a good representation of what the visual difference of the footage. But what about the sound difference? I did a bit of a sound test here with the microphones. I'll let you listen to it. Insta360 X4 Air microphone test at arm's length. DJI mic test at arm's length. Also, and I appreciate this isn't the most important thing with an action camera, I tested the still image quality. And it's quite clear from this that the Insta falls some way below the DJI Nano, even though I'd not even put the DJI Nano up to the full resolution it's capable of. It's also probably the biggest difference in specification between the X4 Air and the X5. The X5 can do over 70 megapixels from a single shot, whereas the X4 Air can only top out at 29 megapixels. I suspect you're starting to wonder now why I was so full of praise at the start of this video for the 360. I mean, this is the DJI Nano, and the versatility of it, because of the size of it, means you can capture some stunning footage. I can strap it to the dog and capture footage like this. So why do I like the 360 so much? Well, this is my review of the DJI Nano if you do want to watch it. Click the link up there if you want to watch that review. But there is a clear reason why I prefer this, the Insta360 X4 Air, over the DJI Osmo Nano, and that's because this has proved to be so wickedly unreliable. It has a massive overheating problem, and I've been testing this with the thermal imaging camera, and I've done a test side by side with these. I recorded both at their maximum footage, so that'll be 4K at 60 frames per second with that one, and 8K at 30 frames per second with that one. That's the maximum that they can achieve, and I just put them on the soundbar next to me just here. I left them recording for as long as they could to see what would happen first. Run out of battery, run out of storage space, or overheat and shut down. Well, although the DJI Osmo Nano was actually a little bit cooler in standby mode by about 2 degrees to the Insta360, 10 minutes in, it's already a different story. And then after 20 minutes, the DJI Osmo has stopped charging. It sends charge between the base unit and the camera unit. After 20 minutes, it has stopped doing that because it was already getting to low 60 degrees. After 30 minutes, we're up to 45 degrees for the Insta360, but 68.5 degrees now. I knew from experience that around about 68 degrees it was going to shut down, and there it was. 32 minutes, the device stopped recording. It was still on, but it was ridiculously hot and it stopped recording. Whereas the Insta360, still going. 33 minutes, it's approximately 49 degrees. Now, I will caveat this. I realised at the 1 hour mark that if I turn the camera around, you actually got a higher temperature reading from the other side of the unit. But this is at a 1 hour, so 60 minutes in, and we're at 51 degrees roughly around the back. But as I flip it over, I'm going to find that it actually jumps up to about 61 degrees. So 1 hour in, down to about 32% battery, and it's still around about 61 degrees temperature. And it finally shut itself off when it dropped down to 5% battery. Bear in mind, it actually started at 97%. When it got down to 5% battery, it stopped recording. Now, obviously, this is all in ideal control conditions, just sat here in my office. But from what I've seen, I can guarantee at least 1 hour of footage from the Insta360 X4 Air. Whereas I'm starting to worry that within about half an hour, that's going to die. And if it's an action camera, imagine if you're out skiing or mountain biking or karting or something, and you're doing an activity and something brilliant happens in that 1 hour, and then you get back and then find that it stopped recording after half an hour, you'd be absolutely livid. And I just can't trust the DJI Osmo Nano for that reason. Whereas that, I'm pretty sure I'm going to get at least 1 hour of footage from 8K, 30 frames per second, 360 vision. And I think that's absolutely wonderful. Now, I want to show you this. If you're unfamiliar with 360 cameras, just like I was, you're going to find that all the goodness comes from the post-edit. So you're going to need to install software for either iOS or Android mobile phones or tablets, or for Mac or PC. This is the Mac version of the Insta360 Studio. You download things either from a physical connection from the memory card or USB, or download it from the cloud. In here, you can make basic edits such as just trimming the footage down, or you can go into a little bit more depth by putting in keyframes and then moving the camera around to look where you want, pressing another keyframe, moving the camera around. It can become a little bit laboured, but it's the best way of getting things done. However, there is also a Adobe Premiere Pro plugin, and this is what I'm using for a lot of my edits. You can download it from the Insta360 website. It is quite well hidden. Go to Google, search for Adobe Premiere plugin for Insta360, and then you can make all the changes that you would be making on either the app or the software, but do it as a plugin. You just go to the effects panel, search for Insta360 in the video effects, and then bring it into your effect controls. Then you've got carte blanche to play around with it exactly how you would in the Insta360 Studio software. However, I will warn you that you're going to need quite a lot of processing power to be able to do this on your computer. I'm running a 2-year-old Mac Studio, and even this is struggling with refreshing and moving the time frame around. There's quite a lot of buffering going on here. So weirdly, when it comes to editing your 360 footage, I really would recommend using your mobile phone or tablet, because it's said to be so much more efficient and easy to navigate using certainly my iPad Pro. I've done a lot of editing so far in this last week, most of which is on the iPad, and the way it syncs between the cloud and my computer, it just works a treat. This is the Insta360 Studio app on my iPad. And I'll show you how you can quickly go about editing your footage. This is using the tracking function. I've drawn a rectangle around myself, and it's going to keep tracking that object around the table, and it works really quite well. And it's not just inanimate objects, it's objects such as the cue ball. Here I've drawn a square around the cue ball, but it's not infallible. You notice it's now skipped onto the red ball, and for the next couple of seconds it's following the red ball rather than the white ball. But when I sync the red ball, it's going to refocus back on the white ball and follow that instead. So it's not perfect, but it works pretty well, and just a little bit of stop and edit, you can do some pretty decent effects with this. This is using the 360 spin around, so you press the button once. It's on a static image, but you can be on the live image as well. That's doing a 360 spin, and you can do a 180 spin in either direction as well, obviously with the turn right or turn left. And like I say, this also applies to the live image as well. When you're actually recording the footage, you can press any of the buttons on the screen and it'll do these things, such as the tiny planet, which is this funky effect you've probably seen on social media quite often. It's a bit of a novelty. You'll use it a couple of times, probably never again, but it's quite funky to watch it in action. And then we've got the manual track, and this works brilliantly, certainly on iPad and lesser effect on the mobile phone. But basically, you put your finger on the screen and you drag your finger around, and it will record what you're doing. For short clips, maybe up to 1-2 minutes or whatever, I think this is actually the easiest way of editing 360 footage, and it's certainly been the way I've been doing it most of this week. It works really, really well, especially on iPad. Then you export it either to your phone or tablet, or to the cloud, or directly to your social medias. And then there's this, the AI editing functionality. This is where you let AI take over, and it chooses what to focus on, where to look, and pieces it together with some preset graphics and funky music. You can change those funky music and graphics down the bottom tab there, but it's piece together a bit of footage how it feels it should be shown to you. In theory, this is a great way of quickly exporting some footage to your socials, but in practice I didn't find it particularly good. It was never looking where I wanted to, and it pieced the footage together in some random format. Quick note on the Insta360 Cloud, you get included for free 1 year subscription to the basic package. £28.99 is what it will be if you were to continue it, although that is a discounted price, and for that you get 200 gigabytes of storage, which is pretty decent. The next levels, the £85 and £99, they are really for professional users, to be honest. And although it does include a free camera replacement should something happen to it, I think for most standard users, and I include myself in that, the basic package is fine. So there we go, that's the Insta360 X4 Air. Like I said at the start of this video, it was really for people like myself who'd not experienced 360 cameras before, because I was very naive to what this can do. Now, when you look at the footage side by side with a traditional action camera, it's clear that the footage isn't quite as sharp, isn't quite as saturated with colour. It does look better straight out of the camera on that. However, when you consider the amount of data that you're recording at the time, you can look anywhere you want in post. When you edit it down, you've got access to all of this footage anywhere you look. It really is a record and forget. Rather than have to compose your shots when you're there in the action, you just turn the record button on and leave it to its own devices and then piece it together in the edit afterwards. And in that regard, it just gives you so much flexibility. You're not having to worry about the camera, you're not having to worry about it overheating, you're not having to worry about it running out of storage space. Just get yourself a big enough memory card. Although it is a bigger camera and it's a more expensive camera than that, it is so much more valuable to me as a recording device. That has given me so much inspiration of what I can do. You're going to need specific mounts, yes. Get yourself a good sized memory card, and it's over to you to be as creative as you possibly can. Get on your skis, on your kayaks, on your go-karts, in your aircraft. You can use this to record some spectacular footage. The question then remains, should you go for the X4 Air over the X5? The X5, yes, is a better camera, but it's also more expensive. This is giving you 95% of the functionality of the X5 at 70% of the cost. And as such, if you're just getting into 360 cameras, if you're not sure if it's the right thing for you, then this makes more sense than the X5. I think it's a wonderful camera and it's going to inspire me to do a lot of creative videography with this thing. So I'm going to recommend it to you. I think this has been great. I'll catch you on the next video.